In 2004, my father, Chaplain Jeff Jacobson, was deployed for 9 months into Iraq, an active war zone. Following our interviews from my mother and father sharing their experiences during this time.
I think Jeff tried to protect us a little bit from that. But I think, he told me a couple of times about missiles coming in and missing, but him being very close to where they landed or seeing them. And I guess that wasn't the things that affected me most, because I always knew that that was a possibility. And Jeff and I are very faithful people that understand if that happens, things will go on. However, the hard things were the way people were treated, the injustices that he saw just within the ranks, and how other people were dealing with the difficulties of being at war, because he shared a little bit about some of the people he counseled with. Since he was chaplain, he listened to a lot of people's stories, and that was hard.
Caleb,
look at Daddy. We have an extra hammock for you. We paid a whole $1 for it. How come you're not using it, Daddy? Aww. Go swing the hammock so it looks like someone's in it. There.
It's invisible, Dad.
Now Daddy's with us.
My first thoughts were how it would affect our family, as we were working in a international setting in El Salvador at the Union Church of San Salvador. And so I didn't know if the church would let us stay, or basically give him a 9-month vacation to go to Iraq. And I didn't know if I would have to uproot our lives in El Salvador and move the kids, and so there was just a lot of uncertainty. Well, I had, I think, a much better situation than many people do, because since we were living in El Salvador and working for the church there, they had hired us help in the home, so that I had somebody to help with a lot of the household duties. And actually, his income made it a little bit easier for us to provide other alternative activities for the kids as well too. So it was kind of interesting that in that way, since we were working for so little at that time, that some of the benefits of him being in Iraq helped us out in kind of biding that time. I did feel very worried at night. I remember that because of the earthquakes and because of possible crime in the area that we were living in. But I moved the machete to our room, thinking that at least I'd have one way to protect my kids. And we all slept in the same room every night that Jeff was gone, just because as a mom, I worried about which kids I would go to first. And how I could protect them all if something did happen. Talk to us every day by instant messaging. It was hard for him to understand how difficult it was for me, because the only time he could talk was when we were getting ready for school, and so it was always a stressful time. So to hold that and try to make that fun for us as a family was difficult. So people think that, or there's a lot of information out there that talks about the emotional burden of somebody who's come back from military action, and that's true. There's the feeling that they have that they've been left out of the family for so long, and so they're very sensitive to being included in family decisions and things like that. But there's a lot of that going on during the deployment as well too, and I don't think people talk about that enough, is because when the person that's deployed has an opportunity to communicate with their family, it's very hard to decide how much to share. And to kind of pretend that everything's going fine so that they don't have that additional burden to think about. And then when things aren't going fine for them, or when they're having troubles abroad, there's nothing you can do for that. And so it's very stressful.
Let's see. See if I can do this. Woo! Too close. Hi! Gonna go make supper. Polish sausages and tamales. Yeah. We'll leave you with this beautiful picture of the coast. Wishing you were here. We love you much. Bye-bye. Okay.
So I had to go to a big warehouse, and they gave me a list, and I had to take all this stuff out of bins, like the uniform and the winter clothing, something I call the fleece, hats and gloves, but then the pack, a sleeping bag that was 3 sleeping bags, and each one would go inside the other one. Metal armor plates that would go into my protective gear, helmet, right? I didn't have any weapons, so I didn't have any knives or guns. Chaplains don't carry weapons.
Okay. And bring a gun home, okay?
What?
Bring a gun home.
What kind of gun?
A machine gun.
That's not.
Yes, the fleece, the fuzzy sweater. I wore it every day, and it was very cold there. So when I came back, I had to give everything back. And but if you wanted to keep something, you just had to buy it and replace it. So I replaced the fleece. So I have that to this day. Well, I took pictures of the children, and I had them on my wall there. Actually, pictures of the family, to include Allison. I still have those same pictures framed that way. Well, it's kind of a two-pronged question, because the first thing is we did actually look at, did I have to go? Did I have any options to not go? And I was in school at the time, and that was an option. And so I said, just ask, and it says here that if I'm in school, I don't, it's a reason to not go. And they said if you don't go, you won't keep your job here. And I was pretty dependent on the work. And I had already discussed it with your mom before this ever happened, that if such a thing would happen, that we were both okay with me going, and it was clear that there was a war going on. So think it changed the way I see how one spends their time in a community as a clergy person, as a chaplain or a pastor. That it's really important to let people kind of be where they are and help them be that, versus you've got all the answers and they should try to be like you. Well, I don't think there's anything about it that can't be understood, but attention spans are very short. So I have never really told anyone who hasn't been there enough about my being there that they could hang in there, and even my best friends. So people are aware that I went, but even your mom said, I said when I went to Afghanistan that it wasn't as kinetic or as it wasn't as combative as it was when I was in Iraq. She was surprised to hear that. It was very combative in Iraq. There were bombs going off every day. You didn't know where they were coming from. A few people died at my camp, nobody that belonged to me. But I remember being on the phone talking or Skyping or something, and there's explosions going on outside.
Dad, if you hear this, next time you send the video, can you please tell me how to get to Stargate SG-1? I've been just looking and looking and looking and looking.
Okay.
I feel so abandoned.
Absolutely. Someone told me before I got there that God would raise up people to help. And that was actually more true for your mom than for me. I was surrounded by help. Everybody there loves a chaplain, which is what I was. I was a chaplain. What I am is a chaplain. But you folks were, my family was in El Salvador, and without me, fortunately, we'd been there long enough that we knew a lot of people and we had routines. So you guys went to school one day, and I went to the airport, and literally came home the last day of school 9 months later. So that was something I believed in faith, that God would raise up people to help. Well, it really helped your mom more than me because, of course, Caleb walked through a pane glass window, and Sam had his appendix out, and that was some crazy stuff that took place.
Okay, well, things are pretty much the same at home. Set up your office so I can do my work better in here and wait for you to write. That's what I spend most of my time doing. It's just hoping to catch you on the computer sometime.
I tell people all the time that if I was away from my family for 6 months now, you grow less now than you did then. So I missed, you were probably 4 or 5. That makes, the other 7, 9, and 11. Those are ages that you can't get back the way you were, as the squeaky voice and just the being so young.
Mommy, Caleb didn't hurt me this week of I am. Mama, this is my uniform. A little bit.
You look like you're going to school in the cities. Yeah. That's why schools have school codes. Because girls would wear stuff like that. Hi, Caleb.
Hi. Mom.
Sarah was so little when her dad went away the first time that it's hard to even imagine what she was thinking. And I think it's, you never really know what the kids are thinking. And so it's good to do this kind of a process later on. So thank you.